Hikaru Nakamura has to make his move now. He's playing against Alireza Firouzja and he has to decide his next move. The position is equal but very complicated. Hikaru takes his time, thinks carefully, and then pushes his pawn to d4. These white central pawns are weak but at the same time can become quite dangerous. Firouzja moves his rook to g2 and attacks the pawn on g7. Fantastic move. Now, Hikaru has only one move at his disposal, which is to push the pawn to g5. And he comes back. He has 10 minutes on the clock while Firouzja has only 3 minutes 50 seconds. We are past the 40 move mark. So now there will be no time increment, but upon every move they get 30 seconds increment. One way to continue now is to take the pawn, and generally after takes it will result in kind of an equal position. But Firouzja is ambitious. He pushes his pawn. His threat is to push and then get the rook in along with his bishop and two rooks, launch an attack. How does Hikaru stop these pawns? Well, he jumps back with his knight and he wants to put his knight on f6 and blockade the pawns. Firouzja moves his rook up to e4 and now attacks the pawn on d4. So this is getting very intense now. Hikaru has to play carefully. He goes knight to b4 and he's attacking the bishop. Well, the point is, if you take rook takes d4, he wants to take the pawn on f5. And so Firouzja here plays f6. King takes the pawn, and what is Firouzja's idea? He's given up a pawn. Maybe his point is he wants to go check next and then push the pawn to queen. If you put your king on e7, I'll get in with a check again. Wow. This is very sharp play, and Firouzja has only 2 minutes to work out all the details, which is not enough. He goes for a check. And now Hikaru plays very quickly rook to f5. Very important move, because if you went king g7, bishop b5, e7, e8, if you went king e7 also rook f7. So that's the reason why here. And now Firouzja takes, king takes, and this is very interesting because there is a discovered attack that can come, but the knight is hitting the bishop. So Firouzja pushes the pawn. Wow. And he's about to make a queen, because if you play now, just think about it. If you play rook e8, then there is bishop b5 and game over. So he goes knight takes d3. He picks up the bishop and Firouzja makes a queen. Nakamura takes the queen. Rook takes rook, and now this is very, very interesting moment, because now Hikaru can go knight b2, try to win this pawn, and then it will be most likely a draw. You can see him trying to make a decision whether to go to b2 or fight for the full point with knight f4. He's calculating his typical style, which is to look at the ceiling. He goes knight f4, which is a brave move by Hikaru Nakamura. He wants to take here the pawn on h3 and maybe then push his pawn down the board. This is brave because he's letting white keep the pawn on a4. King f1 played by Alireza. His king is coming to stop the pawn, and Hikaru now pushes the pawn to d3. Well, what to do next? Alireza Firouzja has to be careful. He plays his king up to f2. He's down to 1 minute 9 seconds. And now takes the the pawn with a check. King comes up to e3. And they take the new score sheet because it is move number 61. And Hikaru pushes the pawn to g4. The best move now is to either give a check, put the rook here, or put on a8. These all moves draw. But Firouzja is thinking he's down to 1 minute now. He takes the pawn with just 1 second left on the clock. What a blunder this is. Look at Hikaru's face. He knows he's been given a chance here. And he is going to look at him. Firouzja understands instantly. Both the players understand it. This is game over. This is game over completely. Because think about it. When the rook goes to g8, I go g2. You can't take it because of knight f4 check. A massive blunder there. Hikaru Nakamura cannot believe his luck there that he has got this point, but of course he found this move, knight f4. He put the pressure on Firouzja. Check there, and now very carefully calculating all the consequences, brings his king back. And this, just to be sure, is he going to play this or not? What did he check in the score sheet? Wow, never seen Hikaru being so cautious. Yeah, plays the king to e6. And now Firouzja very, very upset with what he's done, because g2, g1 is just a queen. What a big miss. He resigns there. The game was drawn, but Hikaru persisted, and in the end Firouzja blundered, and that was a very intense game, intense finish with so many expressions by both the players. A fascinating end to an amazing game.